Your mind is at war with itself. Every morning, every quiet moment, the same thoughts, looping, relentless. You know them well. The catastrophes that haven't happened, the conversations replayed until they bleed, the weight of a future you can't control pressing down on a present you can barely survive. This isn't weakness. It's programming. Somewhere along the way, your mind learned to turn against you, learned that worry equals preparation, that anxiety equals care. That suffering in advance somehow softens the blow. It doesn't. Marcus Aurelius knew this. Emperor of Rome, most powerful man in the world. And yet, every night, he wrote to himself, reminders to control the one thing that truly mattered. His mind. Not his empire, not his enemies, his thoughts. Because he understood something most people never realize. Your mind is not broken, it's misprogrammed. And what's been programmed can be reprogrammed. This video isn't about positivity. It's not about affirmations or pretending pain doesn't exist. This is about discipline, about building a mind that doesn't flinch, that doesn't spiral, that stands firm when everything else falls apart. You're about to discover what the Stoics knew 2,000 years ago. How to kill negative thinking at its root. How to rewire your mind for clarity, peace, and unshakable strength. If you're ready to take control of your mind, type "I choose discipline" in the comments. Let's begin. Let's start with the truth. The uncomfortable, raw truth about what negative thinking actually does to you. It doesn't just visit, it moves in, it takes over entire rooms in your mind, rearranges the furniture, and suddenly you're living in a space you don't recognize anymore. You wake up and the first thought isn't about what you could do today, it's about what will probably go wrong, what you'll mess up, who will judge you, what disaster is waiting around the corner. And here's the cruel part. Your mind thinks it's protecting you. It thinks that by rehearsing every possible failure, every potential humiliation, every worst-case scenario, it's somehow keeping you safe. It believes that if you imagine the pain in advance, the real pain won't hurt as much. But it does. It hurts more. Because now you're not just dealing with reality, you're dealing with 1,000 imagined realities, each one worse than the last. You're living through failures that haven't happened, conversations that will never occur, rejections that exist only in the theater of your anxious mind. And the exhaustion, it's real, it's physical, because your body doesn't know the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. Your nervous system responds the same way. Heart racing, palms sweating, muscles tensing for a danger that exists only in thought. You start avoiding things, not because you can't do them, but because the mental rehearsal of doing them is already so painful that the actual attempt feels impossible. So you stay small, you stay quiet, you let opportunities pass because your mind has already played out every version of failure before you even tried. This is the cost of untrained thinking. And the worst part? You start to believe this is you, that this anxious, overthinking, catastrophizing voice is your personality, your identity, that you were just born this way and there's nothing to be done about it. But that's the lie. You weren't born this way. You learned this way. Every negative thought pattern you have right now was built brick by brick through repetition and reinforcement, through moments where your mind associated thinking the worst with staying prepared, where it confused suffering with caring. And if it was learned, it can be unlearned. If it was programmed, it can be reprogrammed. That's where the Stoics come in. There's a moment that changes everything. It's quiet, unassuming. But once it happens, you can't go back. It's the moment you realize, I am not my thoughts. Read that again. Let it sink in. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one listening to it. You are not the anxious narrative running on repeat. You are the awareness noticing it. And that distinction, that single shift in perspective, is where freedom begins. Think about it. If you can observe a thought, if you can notice yourself thinking it, then you must be separate from it. The thought is an event happening in your mind, not the totality of who you are. Just like a cloud passing through the sky doesn't become the sky itself. This is what the Stoics understood at the deepest level. They recognized that thoughts are not facts. They're interpretations, suggestions, automatic responses generated by a mind trying to make sense of the world. And here's the liberating truth. You don't have to believe every thought that crosses your mind. You have the power to choose. Not what thoughts appear. That's often beyond your control. But whether you accept them, whether you give them weight, whether you let them dictate your emotions, your decisions, your life. Epictetus, born a slave, knew this better than anyone. He had no control over his circumstances, no control over his body, his freedom, his external world, but he had absolute dominion over one thing, how he responded to it all. His mind was his fortress, and no one could take that from him. He said it plainly, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your negative thinking isn't happening to you, it's happening in you, and that means you're not a victim of your thoughts, you're the architect who can rebuild them. The question isn't whether your mind can change, the question is, are you ready to do the work to change it? Because the ancient wisdom is here, the tools are proven, the path is clear. Now comes the transformation. 2,000 years ago, in the heart of the Roman Empire, 3 men discovered something extraordinary, not through mysticism or philosophy detached from reality, but through the brutal, unforgiving crucible of real life. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, constantly at war, managing betrayal, plague, and the crushing weight of an empire on his shoulders, every day presented 1,000 reasons to spiral into anxiety and despair. Epictetus, slave, born into bondage, physically disabled, with no control over his body or his freedom. Every day was a reminder of powerlessness. Seneca, advisor to Nero, one of history's most unstable, dangerous rulers. His life constantly hung in the balance, navigating the whims of a tyrant who eventually ordered his death. 3 men, 3 completely different lives, and yet they all arrived at the same conclusion. The mind is everything. Not wealth, not power, not freedom, not circumstances. The mind. They called their philosophy Stoicism, but don't let the word intimidate you. This isn't abstract theory. This is a practical, battle-tested system for taking control of your inner world when the outer world is chaos. And here's why it works. Stoicism doesn't ask you to deny reality. It doesn't tell you to pretend everything is fine or paste a smile over your pain. Instead, it teaches you to see reality clearly, without the distortion of unchecked emotion, and then respond with discipline and reason. Marcus Aurelius wrote his private journal not for publication, but for survival. Every night he reminded himself of the fundamentals, that most of what we worry about never happens, that suffering often comes from our judgments about events, not the events themselves, that we have power over our minds, even when we have power over nothing else. Epictetus taught his students the most liberating concept in all of philosophy, the dichotomy of control, There are things you control, your thoughts, your choices, your responses, and there are things you don't, other people's opinions, the past, the future, the randomness of life. Peace comes from focusing entirely on the former and releasing your grip on the latter. Seneca, in his letters, warned about the tyranny of imagination. He observed that we suffer more in our minds than in reality. That anxiety about the future steals the joy of the present. That most of our mental torment is self-inflicted, not by the world, but by our runaway thoughts about the world. These weren't armchair philosophers theorizing about life. They were men in the arena, facing death, loss, responsibility, and chaos. And they discovered that the only way to survive with sanity intact was to train the mind the way you'd train the body. With discipline, with practice, with relentless repetition until new patterns replace old ones. And that's exactly what you're going to do. Because if an emperor managing an empire, a slave with no freedom, and a man living under a tyrant's thumb could rewire their minds for peace and clarity, so can you. The tools they used are the same tools you'll learn right now. Let's break them down. The first step in rewiring your mind is understanding how it creates suffering in the first place. Your brain is designed to protect you. That's its primary job. So it scans for threats. It anticipates danger. It tries to keep you safe by imagining everything that could go wrong so you can avoid it. But here's the problem. Your brain can't tell the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. It treats the thought of failure the same way it treats an actual predator. It floods your body with stress hormones. It triggers fight or flight. It creates physical sensations of danger even when you're sitting safely in your room. This is where negative thinking takes root. Your mind starts treating thoughts as facts. It sees a worrying thought and immediately believes it must be true, must be important, must be addressed right now. The Stoics understood this, and they developed a simple but profound practice, the discipline of assent. Here's how it works. A thought enters your mind. Let's say it's something like, I'm going to fail. Everyone will see. I'll be humiliated. Most people automatically accept that thought. They don't question it. They just feel the emotion it generates and react accordingly, avoiding the situation, spiraling into anxiety, treating the thought as prophecy. But the Stoic pauses. They examine the thought. They ask, is this actually true? Or is this just my mind's automatic response? They recognize that the thought is not reality. It's an interpretation of a possible future that hasn't happened yet. And here's the key. You don't have to give that thought your agreement. You can acknowledge it appeared and then let it pass without attaching to it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is the dichotomy of control in action. You cannot control whether negative thoughts appear. They will. Your mind has been trained over years to generate them. But you can control whether you believe them, whether you give them energy, whether you let them dictate your emotions and actions. Think of your mind like a river. Thoughts are leaves floating on the surface. You can stand on the bank and watch them drift by, or you can jump in and get swept away. Most people don't realize they have a choice. They see a thought and immediately jump in, carried downstream by worry, fear, and rumination. The Stoic stands on the bank, observes, acknowledges, and chooses which thoughts are worth engaging with and which should simply be allowed to float past. This is not suppression. You're not pretending the thought doesn't exist. You're recognizing it for what it is, a mental event, not a command, an automatic process, not the truth. And once you understand this, you can begin the real work of reprogramming. Now let's get practical. Let's talk about the specific techniques the Stoics used to rewire their minds and how you can use them starting today. Technique 1. Morning and evening reflection. Marcus Aurelius started and ended every day with intentional thought. In the morning, he prepared his mind for what was ahead. He reminded himself that he would encounter difficult people, frustrating situations, and unexpected challenges, not to make himself anxious, but to remove the shock when they happened. When you expect difficulty, you're not caught off guard. You respond instead of react. In the evening, he reviewed the day. What went well? Where did he lose control of his thoughts or emotions? What could he do better tomorrow? This wasn't self-criticism, it was self-observation, building awareness of his mental patterns so he could consciously change them. You can do this in 5 minutes. Morning, set your intention. Evening, review your responses. Over time, this builds a completely different relationship with your mind. Technique 2. Negative visualization. Seneca practiced something that sounds counterintuitive, imagining loss, not obsessively but deliberately. He'd imagine losing his wealth, his status, his comfort, not to torture himself, but to prepare his mind and appreciate what he had. This is different from worry. Worry is uncontrolled, spiraling fear about the future. Negative visualization is controlled, brief, and purposeful. You imagine a difficulty, you mentally rehearse handling it with calm and reason, and then you let it go. The result? When something actually goes wrong, your mind has already been there. You've practiced the response, and instead of panic, you access the calm you rehearsed. Technique 3. Cognitive distancing. Epictetus taught his students to separate the event from the judgment about the event. Something happens. Your mind immediately interprets it, and that interpretation creates your emotional response. But what if you paused between the event and the interpretation? Let's say someone criticizes you. The event, words were spoken. The automatic judgment, they think I'm worthless, I failed, I'm not good enough. The emotion, shame, anxiety, withdrawal. But what if you stopped and asked, is that the only way to interpret this? Could they be having a bad day? Could this be constructive feedback? Could this be completely irrelevant to my worth as a person? By creating distance between what happened and what it means, you reclaim control. You stop being a slave to automatic interpretations. Technique 4. The view from above. Marcus Aurelius often used this visualization. Imagine yourself from above. See your body, your city, your country, the planet. Zoom out until your problems look as small as they actually are in the grand scope of existence. This isn't about dismissing your pain. It's about perspective. When you're drowning in negative thoughts, they feel enormous, all-consuming, permanent. But from a wider view, you see that this moment is temporary, that you've survived every difficult moment before this one, that the universe is vast and you are resilient. These techniques are simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. They require practice, repetition, daily commitment. The Stoics didn't rewire their minds overnight. They did it through consistent, deliberate effort, one thought at a time, one day at a time. And so will you. So what does life look like on the other side of this work? It doesn't mean you never have another negative thought. You will. That's being human, but the relationship changes completely. Instead of being controlled by your thoughts, you become the observer of them. A negative thought appears, and instead of spiraling, you notice it, You see it for what it is. You choose whether to engage or let it pass. Instead of catastrophizing about the future, you focus on what you control right now, this moment, this choice, this response, and you find a strange kind of peace in that focus. Instead of avoiding challenges because your mind has already played out every version of failure, you step forward anyway. Not because the fear is gone, but because you've trained yourself to act despite it. Your emotions become information instead of commands. You feel anxiety, and instead of obeying it, you ask, "What is this trying to tell me? Is this a real threat or my mind's overprotection?" And then you decide consciously how to respond. You stop wasting energy on things you cannot control, other people's opinions, the past, outcomes that depend on 1,000 variables outside your influence. You release your grip and focus entirely on your effort, your virtue, your choices. And something unexpected happens. You become stronger, not louder, not harder, but grounded, resilient, unshakable in a quiet internal way that doesn't need to prove itself. People notice, not because you talk about your transformation, but because you carry yourself differently. You don't collapse under pressure. You don't spiral in uncertainty. You stand firm. This is what the Stoics meant by inner discipline, not rigid control, not emotional suppression. Mastery. Mastery over the one thing that truly belongs to you, your mind. Here's the truth. This video doesn't rewire your mind. You do. The wisdom is here. The techniques are proven. But they only work if you use them every single day, not when you feel like it, not when things are already falling apart. Daily. Start with one practice. Morning reflection, cognitive distancing, the view from above. Pick one and commit to it for 30 days. Build the habit. Let the repetition carve new pathways in your mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations every night, not because he had all the answers, but because he needed the reminder, because the mind, left untrained, defaults to chaos. You are not broken. You are not beyond help. You are not stuck with the mind you have right now. You are capable of extraordinary transformation. The Stoics proved it 2,000 years ago, and you're about to prove it again. Kill the negative thinking. Rewire your mind. Build the inner discipline that nothing can shake. The work starts now. If you're committed to killing negative thinking and building unshakable mental strength, leave a comment below. I am reprogramming. And make sure to subscribe to the Stoic Mode and hit that notification bell. Your journey to mastery starts now. Thank you for listening.